My inspiration have been my students. Some bit of stress is important in our life. That makes us perform. Student left the house and was not traceable for a couple of days. Miss World was from my college. We have an IPS officers, Maharashtra, who led the team for the 2611. We've remained relevant and we've remained meaningful.
Hi, I am Shweta Gurnani Singh, and with me today is Dr. Poonam Verma. Dr. Verma is heading SSCBS, and she is an institution in herself. It is a great honor to be talking to her today. Today, we are going to talk about stress triggers among college students. We will talk about the making of SSCBS into an institute of global repute and what India needs to do today to upskill and lead the world. Thank you so much for making time for us, ma'am. This is a great honor.
Thank you for getting me over. It's an honor for me as well.
Ma'am, you've been the principal at SSCBS for over a decade, and you've been a professor for more than 3 decades. You inspired generations of educators, students, but we want to know who is your inspiration.
Let me just correct you. I don't think that, I've inspired generations. Yes, generations have come into this college over my 3 decades of association with this institution. And I feel honored and I feel blessed on that account. And my inspiration have been my students.
Oh.
And truly, they've kept me on toes all the time. When I was teaching them in the classroom or when I was working through my head of the institution's room, they've always kept me on my toes. So that's been my true inspiration.
So that's also a lot to you. I've heard, to your credit, that you allow students to speak up. You want to hear what they have to say. Many of the professors here, the faculty, have shared that you tell them, okay, keep quiet and let the students have their way. Is that true?
It has to be. It has to be, dear. See, we must understand that education is a service industry. And whom are we centering all this service around? This is the fundamentals that I read when I was a student of marketing. So this is around students. So we all have to be student-centric. And like they say, customer is the king. So I would say student is the king and the queen. We have to listen to them. If we have to remain relevant, if we have to remain meaningful, it's the students.
So I think that's the secret, folks, on how you build an institution of global repute, right, within Delhi University.
Yes, that's because we've remained relevant and we've remained meaningful. And that can only happen if you know the pulse, and that pulse of the student.
So, ma'am, when I was a student in Delhi University, there was no internship opportunity ever offered to us. There was no placement cell. There was hardly an alumni network to talk about. Today, things are very different. And at CBS itself, we've seen amazing internships, placements. When I recently interacted with CBS students and I asked second year students, how many internships have you done? And the average number was 4. Then soon after that interaction, I went to a reputed IIT. And I asked them, how many internships have you done? And I'm asking third year, fourth year IITians. And some of them had done 0. So we told them, look, when you get to the corporate, you're going to meet CBS kids and they'll eat you alive. We've seen how active CBS is with inactives. So to sustain this over a period of time, how has this been possible for CBS?
For that, I would say this is the kind of a culture. And the culture basically started with the need that we have to remain relevant and meaningful. Blue Ocean Strategy came into the public domain in 2005 through this book. But 1987, when this college started, this college started with a unique program. And that uniqueness about the program was that more of a hands-on experience that needs to be given to the students. The opportunities need to be given to the students. So we started with a program which was not economics honors, kind of a program or a commerce, and there were well established institutions within University of Delhi, and it was actually getting overcrowded. So the red ocean was already there. We need to create a niche for ourselves. And we started, again with the basic value that it has to be relevant, it has to be meaningful. So imbibing all this into the curriculum, into the program, was through the internships. So when they started working, there was another sector that remained untouched, was the social sector. And this is where the enactors came into. The entrepreneurial spirit was there with our students. Anybody who came to Shaheed Sukhdev College of Business Studies, or CBS at that point in time, would take the risk. And for an entrepreneur, the first thing is that you need to have that urge to take that jump into the ocean. So this is where it actually gets started with our students. They want to take risk, and they want to make an impact. And that's what exactly this institution, the spirit of, I'm going a little away from what you really asked me, but I'm just letting you know the spirit of this institution. Someone asked that why this college is called Shaheed Sukhdev College of Business Studies when it has nothing to do with business. Shaheed Sukhdev had nothing to do with the business. At that point in time, I reflected upon it and I told them, look, Shaheed Sukhdev was a revolutionary. He, at the age of 23, he sacrificed his life. What a kind of a risk a 23-year-old took for the nation. Now, that's exactly that spirit is living in our students. One who joined this institution and one who worked for this institution. So, all the time we are working with our students as teachers, as administrators, as supporting staff to work to make an impact. So, this is how, the enactors part came into, the entrepreneurial part came into, and we've been laying focus on this. So, this culture is what we've been able to sustain, which is be relevant and be meaningful.
I don't know if I.
No, it's absolutely hard hitting and clear. We can see where CBS gets its roots and wings from.
Yeah, I mean, to be very honest, it's our predecessors who laid the foundation of this institution. So somebody who moved into a different, on a different route. So do we have our alumni? You would be surprised that some of our alumni have made it so big in not in the corporate world alone. I mean, that's majority of us have gone, but we have the IPS officers. We have in media, in entertainment. Miss World was from my college. Article 370, Lokesh Thar. We have an IPS officers, Maharashtra, who led the team for the 2611. Okay, we have Gitika Ganju. We have people who've really made it big. The value research first batch pass out, Dhirendra. All these people have carved a path for themselves, and that inspires us to do something different.
So whenever I work with CBS alumni, I found them so driven. They are competent, there's no doubt. They're also competitive. And it's not just that they're competing with others, they're competing with themselves.
Yeah, that's
Exactly the value that we insist upon. You have to have your own benchmarks. You don't have to wait for others to tell you, okay, this is what you really need to do. So this is the culture of this institution. That's why we've been able to sustain, our students going in for business case study competitions or for enactors or any kind of, when they're competing in the university itself, our teams are the ones who will win the most prizes, and, the best college award always comes to our college.
So recently we gave them a test to do.
Okay, I don't know about that part. Okay, that's
Today
interesting.
we have a prize distribution for them for the same test.
Oh, really?
So that test paper was designed using the toughest official GMAT questions possible.
Okay.
And we thought when we were curating that test, we thought nobody can get 100% on this. Nobody can even finish this within time.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was our perception. And we decided to give them 1 hour, but we ran out of time in getting things together. Logistics took time. And I think eventually they had only 40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
In those 40 minutes, we have 2 students who have gotten all questions correct.
Good.
And we had prepared 12 prizes. We had prepared 2 prizes for people who get exceptional scores and 10 other good performers. But we have more than 40 good performers.
Good, I'm impressed.
So we had to say, okay, that day we didn't do a prize distribution, and we said we have to come back here. There's no way we can't come back. And we then decided to come back more prepared.
This is exactly, you asked me what is my inspiration. These are my students. This is what really inspires me. And to tell you very truthfully, it's my wish that if I am born again, I am born to be a student of Shaheed Sukhdev. I do not know whether I'll have the caliber, because every year the new crop that's coming into the college is better than the previous one. And to be very honest, I admit publicly that my students are better than me when I was at their age. Certainly. And I take pride in that.
So what we are seriously contemplating, and we've been discussing with your placement team, is that if we know these 50 people or 100 people are really serious about a career in management, we should think long term. Somebody is in first year today, and we let you know that these are the kids who are really bright and they want to do this.
Right.
So can we ensure that they get those kind of internships, those kind of opportunities, so that by the time they are in their third year, they are in a position to apply for a deferred MBA, or later they can apply for a full-time MBA. So we know we can help them.
So if you share that with us, what we generally do is, then we have certain things for the advanced learners also. We can tweak our lectures, we can tweak some kind of a workshops for them. And you rightfully said, we'll share it with our placement cell to identify some kind of internship opportunities, which could be a win-win situation both for the recruiter as well as for the student. So that's a wonderful thing that you're doing. Good.
Thank you. Another thing we heard from the students was that taking these test prep exams, they're not cheap. To think of a study abroad dream is not cheap for a college student. Of course, there's this theory of relativity. If I am 20 years old, maybe spending a few lakhs is a big deal. And at the age of 30, it may not be a big deal. But today it is for them. So we told them that, normally test prep would come in and say, okay, your prizes are scholarships to our courses. But we want to go one step beyond that and say that those who do exceptionally well, and we have 2 of those students today, we would subsidize their exam fee itself, irrespective of where they study from, so that you're highly capable, and for you the exam fee is not a barrier.
It's not a deterrent. Absolutely. Oh, that's very generous of you. And I think that the students would truly deserve that.
Yes, they do. And when the GNAC, the owners of the GMAT, when they heard that we are engaging with CBS kids, they have sent them goodies, and they themselves came and attended the scholarship test.
Okay.
And they were so happy to meet the students.
Very good. Thank you. And thank them. Okay.
How do you go about building an institute of this caliber? What should an educator do? Tomorrow, if I want to create an institution, which may not be part of a university setup, but I want to create an institution of great caliber, great meaning, great value for the end user, then what is the blueprint of it?
I was lately just contemplating and thinking that, this cricket match have now turned into the IPL matches where they auction. I think we need to do something like that for the educational institution. The best of the best should come together, create, and then, of course, the others to replicate that. I'm not claiming myself to be an IPL team leader or a captain, but surely, the thing that we ought to remember, that I've been repeatedly saying this, that we have to remain relevant and meaningful. So as far as these institutions are concerned, we need to be dynamic. We need to be dynamic, focusing on the students, understanding what is relevant for them, what is meaningful to them in the context of the ever changing environment. So, if we do not remain on our toes, we will not succeed. So, I think the culture of any institution percolates from top, and I don't deny that if I do not walk my talk, I will not have this percolated down to the last person in the queue. So I need to look at things from this angle, and maybe that helps the institutions to get built up.
So our key is be relevant and be meaningful.
Absolutely.
And in this process, I always remember Steve Jobs, which would always be stay hungry and stay foolish. So in an educational institution, as a teacher, I don't stop learning. Okay, that's the first thing that I tell my teachers. Okay, we don't stop learning, and I tell my students, don't stop seeking. That's the only two things that can take us forward.
It's for me as a parent of a small child, I'm scared. I'm scared that my 5-year-old has a boarding pass collection and he knows from which airport, which families he wants what in advance. That scares me.
I remember, that ice cream vendor will run into those lanes of the houses और शोर मचाएगा. उस टाइम पर इतनी handy तो होती नहीं थी. We needed to convince our dad why I want an ice cream. What good will it do to you? So I had to build up my case and then get it. Today, before the child even wants it, it's there on the platter. Giving them too easily, let them work for it. Then let them deserve it. We just give it to them before they even think of it is what is creating a problem. अब होता क्या है, वो बच्चा एक या दो होते हैं, they are very precious children these days. No parents want to have like our parents did, but both my parents were working, so they could manage with again a joint family. एक या दो बच्चा बड़ा प्रेशियस चाइल्ड है, उसने कभी ना सुना ही नहीं. अब कॉलेज आता है यहाँ पर, सडनली अब यहाँ पर वही वही बच्चे हैं, उसी एनवायरनमेंट से आ रहे हैं, सम नॉट सो ब्लेस्ड, सम सो ब्लेस्ड. अच्छा, अब टीचर ने तो उनको डील करना है अपने वे में, उसने ना कह दिया तो बस वो तो बड़े अपसेट हो गए. अब वो जो अपसेट हो गए तो उसके अंदर इनको कहीं ना कहीं एक हीन भावना सी आ जाती है. वो हीन भावना ना इनको कुछ नहीं तो इधर उधर जाने के लिए, जिसके पास पैसे होते हैं वो चला जाता है, फिर दूसरा देखता है अरे ये तो इन थिंग है, फिर आई शुड लिव विद माई जोनेसिस विच इज़ अ टिपिकल, आई हैव टू डू, दिस इज द इन थिंग, सो आई मस्ट डू इट.
What scares me is that he recognizes in which setting he's
Don't live with these fears, because it's the worst thing to live with our fears. Okay, I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm not very experienced, but dealing with these youngsters around has certainly made me a better parent than my husband is. Okay, ek to walk the talk and be very communicative with your children. Tell them why you are doing this. Make them understand your work requirements in this, and make them appreciate these sensitivities in small things. और स्पेशली नॉट सो फॉर्चुनेट लोगों को दिखाकर उनमें एक सेंस ऑफ ग्रैटिट्यूड बिल्ड करो, एक कंपैशन बिल्ड करो. अगर हम एज पेरेंट्स ना इन्हीं वैल्यूज पे करेंगे, दे विल सी दैट वी आर वर्किंग हार्ड because we want to make an impact. Let the child at that age understand this. I am sure you'll not have a problem. So you don't have to live with those fears. It is the fears and the guilt. These two things make the parents of today's time more stressful.
That's true. That's true. So, do you really find that in the last decade or so, you find that the students you're meeting have higher stress levels than before? Has that happened?
Very difficult to say that, because coming into a principal's room and sharing their stresses will never happen. I mean, I had not even seen the room of my principal when I was a student. So, but in any case, the accessibility is much higher in my college. So they don't really come back and share those. I come to know through the counselor that yes, they're experiencing a lot of stress. Uh, the only thing that I would get down to say is that some bit of stress is important in our life. That makes us perform. But when we do not know how to balance it, what is that optimum level? And to be very honest, we really don't know till we have actually covered and moved ahead. When we are competing, we're thinking that we are competing with others. What that causes us stress. And when we are competing with ourselves, which is what I insist upon, that please look inward, look inside you. What is your capability? Have that self awareness about yourself, awareness about yourself. Then work upon day by day, improve. Capacity building has to be done gradually. It has to be evolutionary, not revolutionary. So we need to lay emphasis on that. But 3 years or 4 years later, as per their choice of years of education, they move out of the college. They're going to be in the corporate world or wherever they work. And then what happens? They're going to be stressful. So it's better that they get stressed here, manage it, okay, optimize it, and then be prepared for a better world tomorrow.
In the test prep world, we face three things we have to keep harping on. Two of them you mentioned. One is optimum stress, and the second is capacity building. The third that we also emphasize on is creating muscle memory. So, can you delve a little bit more on, for an individual student or not, what is optimum stress?
I would say the optimum stress is till you don't start fretting on whatever you are doing. That's the optimum. And then please introspect and see, what you did last and what you're doing now next. Is it better than your previous? Okay. Okay. And keep increasing incrementally. And when you feel that is not causing or is not impacting your performance, your productivity, okay, go on and on. So very difficult to determine the optimum level. Is going to be very different for all of us, okay, and that optimization is very dynamic. So today this is my optimum level, tomorrow it has to be higher. So you'll need to keep assessing yourself.
Um, Very unfortunately, it's been in the news how students at tenure institutes have faced depression. We've even heard of suicide. We've heard of how people, when they are preparing to get into a premier institute, they undergo a lot of depression. So the struggles that the average 18-year-old, 20-year-old faces today, they have increased. The competitiveness has increased, the peer pressure has increased, maybe family pressure, expectations. And this might sometimes lead to, if not clinical depression and related problems, it can even lead to substance abuse. So, have you come across any such instances? How have you dealt with them? And how is it that CPS keeps the focus on productivity despite all these issues around?
One, it's very, very unfortunate. And we've had cases because we do have a counselor. So through the counselor, we, without, disclosing the name, unless or until it becomes very critical, that's when we get the parents involved into it. And we warn them that these are the tendencies that the counselor is experiencing with them. We had one such case, and that student left the house and was not traceable for a couple of days. And we were, as teachers, as the students, some friends, close friends, we kept them on guard. We were really worried, but fortunately, things happened and he was back at home. Now, these kind of a cases, one or two cases do appear even in our institution. And it's very important that we have our communication channels open. We need to remain accessible both as parents at home as well as at our work, I mean, at educational institution. We need to build some kind of a community within the students, to help each other see some signs of somebody not involving himself or herself in some group activities, keep a watch on it. Now, these are a few things that we can do. And having a counselor in the institution is also, we have mental wellness sessions. We keep inviting students, we keep inviting experts to, from AIMS and from Art of Living and many such NGOs where people come and talk. And we have now value addition courses on yoga, happiness, uh, sports, these are the kind of courses that we are encouraging our students to take in, to, if not eliminate, to at least reduce the impact. That's what really truly can happen. So these are few of the efforts that we do. The starting point somewhere is that when we start comparing ourselves with others, rose is a rose. It cannot be another flower, but all of us have a potential to blossom. So it has to begin with self awareness. I need to work. And therefore, what is self awareness? People don't realize it till it is reinforced by our external environment. That, okay, you're not good at it, doesn't matter. That's not the end of the world. So let's focus on something else. Now, that's exactly the blue ocean strategy also tells us. I mean, we take that as a business strategy, but I regard that as for an individual as much. See, don't go into where others are there. Find a niche for yourself. So, as an institution, we are doing it, and we are encouraging this kind of a culture even in individuals. See, we are looking at placements. This college is known for the best placements. Now, we started realizing that कितनी placements हो जाएंगी, कितने jobs लोगों को मिलेंगे unless we have job creators. So we've started emphasizing on entrepreneurship. We have an incubation center here. So what is really happening is that, again, we are moving into a blue ocean and away from the red ocean.
That's very insightful. So we start saying no. We start thinking about optimum stress.
Will really correct you. We don't start saying no, but we put the pros and cons and let that decision be made. And of course, as adults, and when we are dealing with the younger ones, we need to be smart enough to put the pros and cons in a manner that the choice made by the younger one is in such a manner that, which we think was probably the right appropriate choice. So, we need to be tactful.
Yes. Ma'am, who according to you is a true student and who is a true teacher?
True student, who's a seeker. The student is always the quest for learning. Then you remain a student. And a true teacher is the one who inspires and get inspired by the students. So that's my little understanding or my experience with the educational institution that I've had.
Today's college student, how should they spend their 3-4 years in college? This is a golden opportunity, this time in life.
Oh, yeah.
How should they make the most of it?
The most of it is that their quest for learning should never ever be satisfied. They should never ever feel that, oh, they've learned enough. That's the first thing. Then, of course, invest in yourself. Just don't wait for, what's taught in the classroom, because there is a lot of learning that happens outside the classroom. And that's where the true life skills are learned. Okay? I know for sure what they learn within the boundary of the classroom is going to be forgotten once they've written the exam. Okay, so life skills are something that are going to remain with them. Okay, you need to work upon the trust factor. That also happens. That trust factor between the teacher and student is always there. But to be able to have that trust among your peers can only happen when you work outside the classroom. So work on your communication. That's very important. Take up all opportunities that come to you for public speaking. Okay, networking, as they call business schools, only networking. But networking with not a purpose, but to build trust trusting relationship with people. That's what I always feel.
So, what advice would you give to your 18, 20-year-old self in hindsight? Would you like to change anything about what you did?
My 18, 20 years, and if I see what I am today as a result of what I was, I don't think I like to change anything. Well, I wish I had more opportunities to skill up myself on the technology, which of course I lack. Okay, so if I have to, I would invest in myself in learning how to use technology to its best.
So I think that's happening to all of us. No matter who you are, somebody who's just 5 years younger is smarter when it comes to technology.
Absolutely.
You feel outdated.
They may not be wiser, but they are smarter for sure. But that wisdom would come with experience. So I don't deny that. So, if this youth and people like us join hands together, we can certainly make a better world. Yeah.
So, one fun fact about CBS alumni, when they're working with me, क्लास तो हो गया, मैम पढ़ लिया, ओके, अब ये बताओ आपके लिए बिजनेस प्लान बनाना है. You don't know how many business plans have been given. How they think they're so passionate about what they're doing, and they go beyond the classroom.
That's happening by default. I'll tell you. You wouldn't believe, with just about 1,400 students, which is presently the strength of the college, we have nearly 40, 50 student societies. And every year, I am coming to hear, ma'am, we need to open this. We need to open this. And then, when I discuss it at our staff council meeting, they would say, ma'am, aisa hota hai. They want to see themselves as the entrepreneur. They'll create a society. 2 saal ke baad they exit. And then, another person will come out with कि भाई मेरे को ये society खोलनी है. तो वो जो आपके जो business plans है ना, they get started here in this college. Because they're coming out with various societies. They will have the entire structure in place. पूरी organizational hierarchy, किस तरह से उन्होंने activities करनी है, all that is done by them. So that's why I told you. See, it is learning outside the classroom. That is where they really, those hands-on experience that they get and the skills that they acquire, then they make use of. You ask them any kind of a microeconomics funda or those financial derivatives funda, they wouldn't remember as much. Okay, but they would remember what they did when they created a society, worked upon it, and brought a lot of laurels to that. Recently also they raised for the Crescendo Festival. They raised quite a huge sum of money. I know, if you compare with other colleges where their budgets run in crores and they have very well established sponsors. But here, because the footfall is just about 1,400 students, you have about 8,000 students. So, that variation would come. And somebody who's spending money want to know, acha, aapka student strength kitna hai. So we do miss out on that, but I think they're doing a good job with raising funds. So they know how exactly it needs to be done.
And definitely the industry is watching very closely. They watch CBS very closely.
Absolutely, I agree. Our placements are doing good. And the other route that our students are now taking up is the entrepreneurship route. So they're working out. It starts from how they build a new society. ये वहाँ से start हो जाता है.
We have worked with one CBS admin who has gone into the social impact space, and she is.
They're not one, they're many.
Her distinction is that she's the first international student at Booth School. She just graduated. She's the first international student to get a full ride scholarship.
Good, that's
so she graduated last year from Booth, and that she set a precedent because Booth had never given a full ride to any international student before, and it was done in recognition of her work in social impact.
Wonderful.
Much before NSS came mandatory for our institution, we have a Kartavya society. And this Enactus is nothing but, the social impact that they make through their entrepreneurial ideas. So it's been the culture of our students. I remember we were not in this building, in an older building. We used to be just adjacent to was a government school. So teaching them English language was done in our college rooms through our college students. They would bring them after their school, teach them the language, because they come from a deprived lot where they're not had education in English. So all those, these things are much older, and it's imbibed in our institutions so much that I'm not surprised to what you said. So these things would happen now more, because it's once it's door is open, then they always are, these educational institutions are always on the lookout. Okay, they come from this particular institution, they need to engage with them.
Yes, I can see that the way the internships that she did were mainly social impact.
Yeah.
Though she went and did a regular corporate job and then followed her hardship with that and switched to social impact. Then, even when she was applying to both, we had this discussion, should it be a regular MBA or a public policy program? And then she realized that she could pick up public policy credits. And so she applied to the regular MBA. But that whole journey has inspired so many people.
Absolutely.
So, these kind of stories we do share with our students. So, you're absolutely right. Inspiration would come from their peers as well. At least they follow that route. I'll realize my own potential my own way, but at least I understand that this is happening with our college students.
Ma'am, there are two of your publications that are of great interest to me. One is about developing a smarter workforce. And I'm intrigued by this title, Smarter. They're smarter because they're skilled more, they have higher acumen, they have higher ability. In what way? And to bring it more to the Indian context, what does India need? Do we need a greater skilled workforce, a better workforce, in what manner? And if India achieves this, if we have the smarter, more talented workforce, what bearing does this have on the rest of the world?
Yeah, the publication that you're referring to is much older, but if I see it in today's context and I look at the smarter workforce, uh, the smarter would be certainly in terms of the skill level, achieving things in a more efficient manner, and the effectiveness. So, the efficiency and effectiveness have to optimize. You do things fast, but you don't do it well. Okay, so but you do it well and you do it faster. We need to take advantage of the technology, and therefore, in today's time, I would say the smarter workforces has to work on the analytics. Okay, that is the in thing. Now, to have that in thing, the educational institutions have to invest into, these kind of courses, which fortunately in our college we did it much earlier. Then through the value added courses, then it became a part of the curriculum of, through the NEP, and that also much after a lot of struggle that came to into in our institution. So the efficiency has to come through the input output ratio, where you need to reduce your input and increase the output. Effectiveness have to do with doing things right and choosing the right things to be achieved. And for that, it has to also start from building up a very scientific mindset. Understanding of the whys are very important, and we need to inculcate that right from the beginning, right from the child, of why it needs to be done, why you need to be given this, why you don't need to be given this. So building that scientific mindset is very important. Okay, so when we're talking about the smarter workforce, it has to be. And fortunately, India has the demographic dividends to itself. We have the youngest population, and they have all the energy. The technology is evolving and changing. We've led the world, during the COVID time, the way we handled, the entire crisis. I think India is the place, and therefore, and the other good thing about India is that we have the diversity of regions, diversity of population, and I think within India we are living major continents of the world, and as a result, to be able to deal with diverse set of people, which is again a challenge the youngsters of other nations face, we don't, because of the diversity. I mean, in a central university like ours, where students come in from all regions and different regions, north, south, east, west, central, far east. So you get that window. You need to understand their culture. You need to be sensitive to those is what the learning happens here. So, with the smarter workforce, India needs to really invest into building up the scientific mindset, which will lead to higher levels of skills. And analytics is what we really need to really lay emphasis on.
Your other publication, the title itself I find so beautiful. The title says Behavioral Mechanism to Overcome Leadership Challenges, the role of inward looking leadership. This really made me think that am I looking inward? And what is inward looking leadership? Can you tell us about this?
So when we're talking about the inward leadership, I think spiritually, that's what all the spiritual gurus would talk about. Look inside you. Inside is what really lies your potential. So it basically starts from that. It's reflecting inside, because one thing that we really need to remember is that the control lies within. I can change myself, though of course it's very hard, okay? But very, very challenging to change others. So, the inward leadership has to start and reflect upon, what needs to be done. What could have I done better to get different results? So it has to be, so it again has to begin where I started initially, that self awareness. Once you've realized what you are capable of, then handle the world from outside. Then your outward leadership will begin. Then you have to control you need to make those targets met. Now those targets are coming because of the market situation that's changing. That's because your competitors are doing something. So first it has to begin from inward, but that's not the stopping point. It has to then get connected with the outward leadership aspects.
So, if I am an inward looking leader and I'm able to work on inner change, the change begins with me.
Absolutely.
I change. How does that have a trickle down effect? How does it change? How does it spell out as leadership?
See, one, I first realized my own potential. And as I said, that once I've realized, I've done my SWOT analysis, okay, then what I need to do is do that for the others, help others do that for themselves, and then link it with what the outward leaders should do, is to identify some targets that they need to be, some goals that they need to achieve. So what you do that for yourself, facilitate, create an environment where the others in your team also do that, and then we together synergize and achieve those targets and goals that we've set. I mean, as a teacher I would do that, and then I would make that happen for my students, and then we help the students. This is how it has to go, transfer itself into the educational institution also.
So, let's assume there is a class, you'd like the class to score better. And so you have a tangible target. I want to see scores. At the same time, you're saying that as the head of the institution, you also identify how people who are going to ultimately execute. So you have different stakeholders. All these stakeholders, whether they are faculty or the students themselves, what transformation also that need to undergo apart from studying or teaching and getting those scores.
Yeah, maybe I just paraphrase a little. The scoring is not what my outcome should be. My learning, my emphasis has to be on the learning of the students. Okay? So, what I can do is incentivize that to the students, that look, this is what you'll be able to do. Okay? Give them that kind of a target, rather than, making them link to the score of, or a grade of, A plus plus, or whatever, is the highest thing. We need to identify different levels of learning for each of the students. They may be advanced learners, they may not be so advanced learners. Okay, so there's going to be a gradation. So what we really need to do is take advantage of the technology and work upon the advanced learners through a different kind of an outcome, and not so advanced learners with a different kind of an outcome. uh, Make some kind of a learning or workshop kind of a mode that these students can relate, because engaging with this youth is a big challenge in today's time. As teachers we face that. They think that everything is there on their palm, okay? But they do not know where to filter. And this is where the role of a teacher would come in, to filter appropriately. This is relevant, this is not relevant. This only the teachers can do as a catalyst or as a facilitator. And I have been telling my teachers that, there may be certain topics, certain areas that I'm not good at. But what I should really then get down to do is I realize my weakness. I go around setting that up with finding another person who's more appropriate in doing this particular topic. Call that person over, learn from him. A couple of times when I call these experts, fourth time I have now learned basically inward leadership, identifying your own strengths and weaknesses, how you need to strengthen your strengths and how you need to work upon your weaknesses. So it has to start with you as an individual. Then once you've done that, then look at your team and help them to do that exercise for themselves. Synergize, then come.
What has been your greatest learning in life?
My greatest learning has been that there's no stopping to learning. That's one. And ability to take a risk. Learn, and risk investing into yourself.
Wow. So that risk is invest in yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't really call it as a risk, really. But yes, it starts with a risk, but then it turns out to be an investment.
With those amazing insights, we call it a day for today. Thank you so much for this very insightful session. I'm sure all your fans are going to love hearing what you have to say.
Oh, my pleasure. I enjoy it as much. Thank you.